Hi, welcome. My name's Joe, aka Gunny. Today I'm going to show you how to build an at-home do-it-yourself bench for weightlifting. We're going to start out first by doing all of our cuts. So we're going to make 8 cuts of 16-inch 2x4, 1 cut of an 18-inch 2x4, 2 48-inch 2x4s, and then 1 cut of a 48-inch 2x12, and that's going to be the top to our bench. So I'm going to get started here. I'm going to show you quickly how to make these cuts, and then I'll show you how to assemble it. Now, if you have a handy compound miter saw with a stand like this, it's really easy to make the cuts. You just measure once, set your gate to the right distance, and you can hammer them out. If you don't have that, you'll just have to measure each cut, or if you watch the How to Build Your Own Squat Rack video, you can make the first cut and template it off that so they're all the same length. Right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up for these 16-inch cuts, cut my 8 16-inchers, and then move on from there. All right, this is our last 16-inch cut. So we have 8 16-inch cuts right here of 2x4. I'm going to move on to make the 18-inch cut of the 2x4. Made in America. Made by U.S. Marines. Our 18-inch cut of the 2x4. Now I'm going to make 2 48-inch cuts from a 2x4. All right, 2 48-inch cuts on the 2x4s. All right, so we're all done cutting here. We have our 8 16-inch 2x4s, 2 48-inch 2x4s, 1 18-inch 2x4, and 1 48-inch 2x12. All right, now our next step is we're going to assemble the base of it to begin with. So this whole assembly right here, we're going to put this together next. So we grabbed all of our 16-inch 2x4s and our 2 48-inch 2x4s. You want to find a nice flat surface to be able to set this up on. So first step, I'm going to try to square up our 2x4s here. So for this, we're using number 8 2.5-inch general purpose screws and also Gorilla wood glue for this portion. Put a little dab of the glue on the corners here. You don't need a whole lot. Set one of the 16-inch 2x4s on it, and then you want to make sure that it's flush on both sides. So best way to do this, get it close, and you can grab another 2x4, or if you have a square, you can grab a square to try to line them up. Make sure they're good and flush on the ends. And then once you have it flush, grab your screws. Make sure you're applying pressure down onto the board. So when I'm putting these first screws in for this first piece that's going against here, I've been to remind myself so that way I don't hit a screw whenever I sandwich the other one on top of it. I've been putting on the first board, I put a screw at about 11 o'clock and a screw at about 5 o'clock. And then you'll see how I do it on the next board, but that way you don't end up screwing into another screw while you're putting it together. Check, make sure it's still flush. over here to the other side, do the same thing. So I know my rule of thumb was 11 and 5, but because of this big knot here, I wanted to do it opposite so that way I wasn't having to drill into that knot. All right, next step, we're going to sandwich the other 16-inch 2x4 to the outside of these, and we're going to screw those together. Again, just make sure it's square, it's lined up good. Put pressure on it. And then this is where we're going to put them at about 2 and 8 or 1 and 7, somewhere around there, so we don't hit the screws below it. All right, so that's the one side. We'll go ahead and flip it over, do the exact same thing on the other side. All right, so there's our base. All right, our next step is going to be to place the stabilizer on the side of the bench that you want your head on. So the first thing you need to do, we got our 18-inch 2x4 right here. We're going to measure it out so we can mark the halfway point on it. So this step of it would help to have a second person to be able to hold the end of the bench. First thing you want to do, get your driver, your screws. Make sure that the ground is as level as possible. Add a little bit of glue to where it's going to be contacting the base here. And then marry it up to the end. So you want to make sure that the bench is on stable ground, that it's not teetering or anything like that in the process of putting this on. This is going to shore it up so that it doesn't teeter. Stabilizer up. And then at this point, throw 1 or 2 more in there, make sure she's good and tight. Last step is installing the top. What you got to do is you got to find the center mark on it. So 2x12 is actually about 2x11 and a half. So half of that is about 5 3/4 inches. So you want to mark the center. And then I like to put screws down the center of it just to make sure she's held on there good and tight. Flush it up, make sure that it's centered. All right, once you get it close, you can always just put 1 screw in the center at the far end down here and then turn around and make sure it's still centered on the other side. There you have it. Do it yourself at home bench. You can customize it however you want. If you wanted to get, besides just your general planking type boards, you can go try to find a butcher block style or make your own butcher block style top for it. Add padding to it from here, wood burn it, stain it, whatever you want to do with it, you can make it your own.
Any final closing thoughts?
Really easy to make, really sturdy. Do it right, she'll last you a lifetime.